Automated traffic enforcement systems, commonly known as ATE systems, were introduced with the intent to make roads safer, reduce violations, and prevent traffic-related injuries and fatalities. But in Washington, D.C., the intent of these systems seem to have shifted from what it previously once was. What started as a well-meaning initiative to promote safe driving has evolved into a revenue-generating operation that disproportionately impacts low-income and minority communities. In this video, we will examine how DC's use of ATE systems has strayed from its initial goals, and become more about financial gain than the overall public safety. At this point, if you do not know what the acronym ATE stands for, it is Automated Traffic Enforcement. These systems are essentially traffic cameras that are placed at various points throughout the city to catch violations like speeding or running red lights. Initially, they were seen as a technological advancement that could enhance road safety by holding drivers accountable without requiring the physical presence of a police officer. Over time, however, the purpose of these cameras have become quite blurred. As Patrick Rodriguez notes in Smile Your Own Camera, while automated traffic enforcement systems have been shown to reduce violations and improve safety, they also raise important questions about fairness, transparency, and whether they are truly effective in addressing the root causes of dangerous driving. Rather than serving as a tool to make streets safer, these systems are increasingly viewed as financial resource for the city. The growing reliance on ATE-generated fines as a funding source has raised numerous eyebrows throughout the district. David Brunery, a professor of public policy at the George Washington University, critiques this trend by stating, "The city unfortunately uses various fines as a revenue source. There is a place for fines to deter bad behavior, but there is something untoward about using them for general fund revenue." David Brunery hints at the idea that the general fund and its lack of transparency to the public is very questionable, especially since we have the exact amount and really like the ballpark area of how much money these tickets are pulling in and how outrageous it actually is. In fact, the numbers might actually be way more than you initially thought. In May 2024 alone, DC traffic cameras issued over 250,000 tickets. That's one ticket every 12 seconds. The district has generated $76 million more in traffic fine revenues compared to the fiscal year of 2010. That's an increase of over 48%. While these revenues dipped, of course, during the pandemic because there was nobody driving, they are now slowly rising back up. As you can see from this graph, it is comparing 4 different topics all related to tickets. One being how many tickets given out per month, one being how many tickets are being paid, and so on and so on. And as you inspect the graph, you can see that every single one has a drop off at a particular point, and that is during the 2020 pandemic. And soon after that ends, it's an immediate shoot back up. The top 10 speeding cameras in the district alone bring in an estimated $55 million annually, which breaks down to roughly around $151,000 per day. This next video clip is just putting on display one of the newer cameras in DC and how much revenue it has already brought in.
Camera in Washington, D.C. is a relatively new one installed on the Potomac River Freeway. It issued enough tickets in the first half of 2024 to total $5.9 million.
If this still doesn't seem like a lot to you, just keep in mind this is only from the top 10 cameras within the district, and there are about 470 to 500 cameras throughout the entirety of the district, just to put it in perspective for you. A 2017 report even revealed that DC generates more money from traffic fines than any other city in America. Beyond this insane amount of money that is being collected, there's actually a deeper issue. Who is paying these fines and how are they actually being affected? Many of these cameras are disproportionately placed in neighborhoods with predominantly Black and low-income residents. This has a significant financial impact on communities that are already economically vulnerable. As M. Johnson explains in DC Fiscal Policy Institute, because fines and fees are typically not adjusted for income level, people with lower incomes must pay a larger share of their earnings for each fine compared to people with higher incomes. And due to historic and ongoing systemic racism, Black household income in DC is persistently lower than white household income, meaning that Black residents experience outsized financial harm as a result of these fines and fees. these fines are not just a measly like $50, $25. They could be $100, $200, some upwards of $300, $500. Um, they're not just inconvenient, they can be financially destabilizing to some people. Diverting away from the district really quickly, there's also the same problem occurring across the country in San Francisco, where it seems as though African Americans and other minorities within the lower income bracket are being targeted by parking police. In examining the spatial distribution of parking tickets in San Francisco neighborhoods, an overlooked form of urban inequality, they state, "We do find evidence that low-income neighborhoods have significantly higher rates of both street cleaning and metered parking citations in comparison to high-income neighborhoods." Within the same article, there are many graphs and charts to prove this point, but unfortunately, I do not have the ability to copy and paste from that specific place, so I will give you the source once more. It is called Examining the Spatial Distribution of Parking Tickets in San Francisco Neighborhoods, an Overlooked Form of Urban Inequality, and it is a great read. You should check it out. This displays how another place within the United States is experiencing the same form of inequality as people right here in the district are experiencing. The only difference is that one is traffic tickets and the other is meter citations and parking tickets. But they both seem to be targeting low income and minority groups. With our current system in place, all violators are treated the same, but its effects are far from equal. As Pascal J. points out in DC's Equity Dilemma Over Traffic Cameras, Jeff Bezos and Dan Snyder are affected differently by a fine than a nurse or a school teacher in the district. But right now, our system does not distinguish between the two at all. In essence, the city is enforcing traffic laws in a way that punishes people unequally, regardless of income or ability to pay. Moreover, the problem doesn't just stop at fines. The mayor's proposed redirection of ATE revenues is set to further disadvantage the same communities already hit the hardest. Between 2014 and 2021, Black DC residents accounted for at least 58% of all traffic-related fatalities, despite making up only 41% of the city's population in 2020. Rather than using the revenue to fund road improvements or community safety programs in these vulnerable areas, the money is funneled into a general fund with little transparency or accountability. This is what I pictured the general fund as, just a bunch of money lying around with nowhere to go. That leads to a key concern. Where does the money actually go? Most of it is placed into the city's general fund, which is a large financial pool not earmarked for any specific purpose. According to Sayan Taylor, a former official in the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, the city is forever looking to increase the general fund's baseline, always up and never down. And so the idea of lowering tickets becomes politically untenable, as no one department or one program is willing to stomach a cut. This lack of targeted spending undermines the original safety policies and goals of the ATE systems. The fines don't necessarily result in safer streets, they just become part of the city's operating budget. In fact, the results are actually very disappointing. While the city has expanded its ATE programs significantly, traffic fatalities have not gone down at all. On the contrary, they've actually increased every year, with 52 deaths reported last year alone. That raises serious concerns about whether the current approach is even working at all. As Johnson M. states in DC Fiscal Policy Institute, when local governments turn to fines as a major revenue source, they not only make it more difficult for residents to get by financially, but they also fail to focus on strategies that reduce crashes and improve public safety. Instead of being used to address the actual causes of traffic violence, like unsafe road design or lack of pedestrian infrastructure, ATE revenue is being used to plug budget holes. There is a better way forward. Through more transparent and equitable tax and spending policies, DC can use the revenue to invest in the communities most affected by unsafe streets and economic inequality. As one report notes, through tax and spending choices, DC can invest in public services that help our communities thrive, reduce long-standing racial and economic inequalities, and build a strong foundation for the future. Redirecting funds towards pedestrian improvements, expanded public transportation, or driver education programs would not only serve the community, it would fulfill the original purpose of the ATE systems. In conclusion, while automated traffic enforcement systems may have begun with good intentions, their current use in Washington, D.C. reflects a troubling shift towards revenue collection over public safety. The city's dependence on fines undermines trust, widens inequality, and does little to actually prevent traffic deaths. Until DC adopts a more transparent and just model for traffic enforcement, these systems will continue to burden residents without delivering the safety that they were designed to ensure.